are now starting with Earth Science, so make sure you put a tab in your binder for Earth Science. You don't need to do it now, but at some point you will need to do that, and everything you talk about from this time forward will be for Earth Science. Before we talk about Earth Science, I'm sorry, not before we start talking about rocks and fossils and the record, there's a quote that the present is the key to the past. What does that mean? The present is a key to the past. Think about it for a second, and then raise your hand and tell me what that means. Okay, he says what is happening right now kind of reflects or shows what went on in the past or interprets the past. So give me an example of that.
How the continents, like they look like they can connect.
Okay, so you're talking about the shapes of them?
Yeah.
Okay, how the continents have their shape, which makes us to believe that maybe at one point they were of a puzzle piece. Okay?
Ancient dinosaur fossils make us believe that hundreds of millions of years ago that much different creatures once roamed this earth.
Okay, now let's take it out of the science realm and just think about everyday stuff. What are some present day keys that helps us understand the past?
If I ever tested because they were studying it.
Okay, that's possible. Here's another one. Why do they have in the zoo, don't feed the bears? How do you know? What happened? The past time, maybe someone has already fed it, so now the present key is don't feed the bears. So this won't happen to you, something in the past. The past, we have to learn from the past. Why? To make our future better. How do we make our future better from past? We use what we learned in the past to fix mistakes, but not only fix mistakes, but to do what? Let's not think about the negative.
To do things.
Repeat good things.
To repeat good things. So if something works, we want to make sure we always do what works. Something didn't work, we want to be able to change it. So the present will help us understand the past. And in the past, we had some stories. This should be way over here. I don't know why it's moved way over there. But catastrophism should be under there, this part. But we had some theories in the past. One was called uniformitarianism. That's not a hard word, it's just a long one. So put it together, say it. Uniformitarianism. You didn't say it, James. You just mumbled it.
Say it again.
Say it again. Or was that Andrew?
That was definitely Andrew. That was definitely James. I heard him mumble so hard. I think I was fighting.
All right, say it with me.
Uniformitarianism.
Uniformitarianism. Good. All right. So, there we go. This was a past theory, uniformitarianism. What word do you hear in that? Uniform. So to help you remember, think uniform. What does uniform mean? Not the clothing that maybe one day you'll go to a school and they'll say, or you'll work a job where this is your uniform. This is what you have to wear. But what is uniform? Where does that word come from? What does uniform mean?
One form. A
common one way. Good, that's a good definition of it. One way. Now, uniformitarianism was a theory that was by Mr. Hudson. And Mr. Hudson, what do you think he said, since we're talking about something that's uniform, what do you think he said about Earth's history or the building of the Earth? Everything was the same or sudden. Same or gradual. So geologic change, meaning the change of the Earth, was gradual. It was the same. It was like, okay, this is this. It's just going along with the flow. So let's say I needed to rearrange this area up here, and I need to move this stool, uniformitarianism. I would just kind of be like, don't like it there. Yeah, maybe that's good. Oh, you know what? It's probably better off right there. That was like just gradual, right? Gradual movement, correct? Okay. Even if I needed to rearrange this table, said that geologic change was just a gradual process. It's something that just happened over a long period of time. Then another scientist by the name of George Lyell said that it was catastrophism. He was under the theory of catastrophism. What word do you hear in catastrophism? Catastrophe. Disaster. So what do you think this theory said?
Like a big disaster happened.
Suddenly, all at once. Geologic change was sudden. So let's say this stew, I didn't like where it was. No, that's better.
We're under attack.
Definitely looks.
I'm scared.
I don't like this table. All right. I'm holding it with this. But modern geology says what? What do you think modern or the current theory is? Geology is the study of the earth. So what do you think the current study of the earth says? Let me go back for a second. Let me just back up. Hold that thought for 1 second. What type of catastrophes would change something suddenly? Volcanoes, earthquakes, tornadoes, all of those things. So what do you think the current theory is, Jack?
It was a mix of both.
He says a mix of both. How do you suppose our world happens? Do we have earthquakes every day?
Yes.
In the same area? Do we have tornadoes every day in the same area? Every single day? Every single day? No. Every single day in the same parts? Not in the same parts. So what do you think the current theory is?
They changed.
How?
Sunlight
Or? Is our earth changing daily? And then do we have a gradual change that stirs it up a little bit? I'm sorry, a sudden change that stirs it up a little bit? Yeah. So modern theory is gradual geologic change is interrupted by catastrophes. So we have, our world is changing and then it changes suddenly. Then our world changes and continue changing and then there's a sudden change, which is a catastrophe. I'm not putting anything under interpretation. You can do that if you like. Uniform change, then catastrophe. But this really explains itself. I don't need to put that in other words, do I? No. Now, in order for us to study the earth and study the changes within the earth, we have to look at the earth. Now, can we just go to a part of the earth and just look at the ground and say, yep, this was different before. I can just look at this and tell this was pretty different. How do we do it? Go deep into it. So that means we have to dig some places. Let's say we're in a desert area and we dig up that desert area and we find fish fossils. What can we possibly say about that area? Huh? It used to have water, so maybe that area was not always a desert, right? Or maybe it was connected to an area that had water. So therefore, we have to be able to dig in that earth to look up certain things. We cannot just look at the land. We have to dig up past life. So to study geologic change, it involves studying past life. Past life would be considered what? What? Which would be parts of fossils. Using fossils to study past life would be called what? Say it. Paleontology. Paleon is past life. The person who studies past life would be called a? I am a paleontologist. That's your favorite commercial? They don't play it too much anymore. Shoes, pay less. Any questions about this? Got it? We covered over the whole chapter now. This is the beginning of your 9th grade year. So, and you got this. This is understandable, right? Okay. All right. In order for a geologist, also known in this area, for a paleontologist, to be able to work together, certain geologists, which are archaeologists, and paleontologists, to work together to figure out the dating of the earth and animals that came first, to help us understand why we have what we have now, why we are what we are now, and to not make the same mistakes or continue doing the things that are correct. They have to go deeper and study not only past life, but they also have to go deeper and study the Earth's history and how old is the Earth and things of that nature. And they do it with something called relative dating. Now, they don't get together with their sisters and their cousins and date and get married and stuff like that. No, it's not this type of relative dating. What does relative mean here? About. In a sense. You don't have exact, right? So relative is what scientists use to determine whether an object or an event is older or younger than another object or event. What are the key words here for relative? Older and younger. So therefore, if Mason stood next to Betty White, you would be able to give some relative dates by saying Mason is younger than Betty White. Still. Betty White is older than Mason. What would be the thing that you would look at to determine who's older and younger? Well, not necessarily, because there are some people your age that have premature gray.
She's short, she's wrinkled.
Features, wrinkles. Well, short doesn't make her older.
But she hobbles around.
So, features. You're looking at her features to determine, and his features to determine. Now, relative date estimates the order of events. So notice there's no time. I didn't say Betty White's 85 and Mason's 14. We're just saying Mason's younger, Betty White's older, right? There is no absolute information. We don't know anything for sure. Like, for instance, if you looked at Darius and his sister, you would say Darius is older, his sister's younger, because he's taller. However, she's older than him, but you don't know by how much. And you probably wouldn't be able to guess just looking at the two of them. All right? Any questions about this? Okay. So remember, relative dating. Having that information, let's play a little game. Now, before we play this game, how many of your parents are paparazzi? Everything you do, they take a picture. My mom is the same way. Hence the pictures here. So, Jessica. Now, when Jessica was born, her mom had her arm. What do you think Jessica's dad was doing?
Crying.
Taking pictures and probably crying as well. And he was snapping pictures of Jessica. And he's like, oh my God, look at my sweet little Jessie Poo. Woo-hoo-hoo. And he's taking pictures and snapping pictures. And then they have this brand new bundle of joy. They bring this brand new bundle of joy home. They're so consumed with all these little faces she's making and kicking her legs. And she looks just like my mother. No, she looks like my friend. Oh, no. And he has all these pictures. And he wants to make a photo album, but he's too consumed, and mom is too consumed with the baby and how pretty she is and all this stuff they're doing. So he puts them in this baby photo box to prepare to be able to make a photo album. So he puts all the newborn pictures there. Then Jessica starts to get older. She starts to move a little bit. Mom has a favorite outfit. She puts it on Jessica. And they're like, oh, my God, look how pretty she is. Honey, get the camera. And they're taking pictures of her, It's like, oh, she is so adorable. And Dad's like, okay, I don't have time to make the photo album just yet, but we're going to get these pictures together. We're going to have this photo album for her. And he puts them in the box on top of the baby pictures. He puts them in the box on top of the newborn pictures. Then Jessica's getting a little older. Now she starts to get her first tooth. Right? And he's like, oh my God, she has her tooth. And mom holds her mouth open and Dad gets the camera and takes the picture. And Dad says, that is the cutest thing ever. He puts it in the box because now he has to leave to go to work. He didn't have time to put that together. He says, okay, we're going to have a long weekend coming up. I'm going to make that photo album, right? Well, that long weekend comes up, family comes over, they see the baby. Oh, she's getting so big, she's so adorable, she's so precious. Didn't get time to get to that picture box yet. Time goes on. Jessica starts to take her first step, and she's wobbling, and her mom's like, honey, get the camera. And she falls down. He goes, you missed it. And then Jessica looks around and she pulls up again and she lets go and she's like, and Dad's like, got it. Gets those pictures printed because at that time we didn't have Facebook. Gets the pictures printed and puts them in the box and says, honey, I promise, by the time she graduates from college, I will get this book made, right? First day of school, no, she turns 1. She has on her little pretty pink dress with the ruffles and the ribbons in her hair, right? Yep, yes, exactly. So, and then Mom's like, oh, she's so pretty. Watch her get her little piece of cake. And she gets it all over her face. And Dad has that camera. He's taking pictures and he puts it in the box. Jessica goes to school for her first day. She has a little book bag on. At that time, it probably was Blue's Clues. She has her Blue's Clues book bag on. And she has her little light-up sneakers. And she's walking in school. She's waving to Mom and Dad. And she's so excited. No, Jessica's not waving. Jessica's holding on to Mom's leg. Like, no. And Dad's like, oh, this is so adorable. And he's taking pictures. And he puts it in the box. Time goes on. Now Jessica's graduating from the 5th grade. Where are her parents? Taking pictures. And where do they put those pictures? In the box. Where's the oldest picture? On the bottom. Did I say it was the oldest picture because she's the oldest in the picture? No. Why am I calling it the oldest picture? The time that the picture was taken. Where's the youngest picture? On the top. Why am I calling it the youngest picture? She's not the youngest in it. The most recent time period. So with that being said, we're going to date my pictures. Put the oldest, meaning the one that was taken the latest, here, moving all the way along the continuum, putting the youngest, meaning the one that was taken most recently, here. We're going to start with the oldest and build up to the youngest because we're stacking them. Who thinks they can take the challenge? Not you.
I really don't know.
Brienne, come on.
That second one right there is really old.
Again, we're not looking at the picture to see where I look the oldest. We're looking at the picture to see which one was taken the latest. Right over here.
You'll put them down there.
Start with your head. Start here. You put the oldest one there. You just drag it.
Is that you right there, or are you bringing it?
I'm the baby. Bring it all the way over here. Yeah. And you can kind of stack them because we're going to have a long line. Polaroid. And that was a Polaroid picture. Because you do know that's me, right? Right. Okay, just making sure somebody like, which one do you know? Look at the complexion.
Wait, why is it still there?
Because they're infinite clones, they're clones. And we can stack them just so we can fit them all. If you get all the way to the end of the line, you can put the next one here, okay?
That one thing. Is that you?
Yes, these are all
Why
of
you
me.
look so dark?
It's the picture. Take a picture of a picture. Shut up.
Baby Jason.
I'll give her a moment to keep working. I'll close these blinds some so you can see better.
Oh, you look even more dark now.
And then the next one is just stack up here, okay? Okay, let's see if she is correct as far as from oldest to youngest. Well, this picture is me as a very, very baby. What did you guys use to kind of determine? What was Brienne kind of using to determine the oldest and the youngest? Huh? The color of the picture. What else? The age, the features, my features in here, kind of helping out. So this was my baby picture, kind of a couple days before coming home from the hospital, after coming home from the hospital. This was when I was 1. This actually was my first birthday, but it was like my birthday was on a weekend, so it's like right before I turned 1 right here. This was after my birthday. No, Darius, this is not you. That's actually me. This comes next. I was coming from a recital, and there's a Michael Jackson poster over there. This is me and my aunt, God rest her soul, one Christmas. This is me. No, actually, this goes here. This is me on Christmas with the fake Santa.
He's not fake.
No, I'm sorry, he's real.
He is.
This is me on Christmas Day. This is correct. Me and my daughter went Thanksgiving a couple years ago. This is me and this kid that just won't leave me alone.
Serious.
Have you realized that your hair is the same exact in that one picture?
This is me last year, and this is me today. It's a selfie.
Really tired.
So therefore, that's the
Your hair and your clothes are exactly the same.
order. I took it today, honey, so that you can have some information about which one would be the youngest picture.
They didn't delete.
All right. So having that information and knowing, gosh, having that information and knowing how we use relative dating to layer the rocks or to date the earth or to understand the age of the earth, what is actually called the law of superposition. Scientists use this law. Now we had, can I get it to play? We had this information super in our Latin words. What was that? Above. So the law of superposition must state what? Out above, what does position mean? Your position, well, I mean, your location, where you are. So what do you think the law of superposition states about the layer of rocks? The youngest is always above the oldest. So therefore, we started from the bottom. Now we're here.
Yeah, what if people did?
So your youngest rocks always lie above your oldest rocks. That's the law of superposition. So your younger rocks are at the top, your older are at the bottom. Older started from the bottom, younger at the top, now they're here. And notice it says in an undisturbed sequence, meaning there's no disturbances. So this is the way it's going to work. Now if that box of pictures got knocked over by the dog, oh my God, it's disturbed. They have to try to put it back in order, understand looking at the features on where those pictures should go. Any questions?
So, like, what if somebody dug up, like, a big section of rock, turned it over, and flipped it upside down?
Well, they can't flip that whole land mass over. The piece of it's just not enough, right? They only dig up the piece so they can understand it. All right. So using the law of superposition, it states that sedimentary rock layers are older than the layers above it and younger than the layers below it. By applying the law of superposition, geologists would be able to determine that layer D is the youngest bed in the rock section. Which layer would be layer D? What color? The pink. Why is this layer D? Because it is the top layer, which means that it had to be the rock layer put down last. Which would be the oldest layer? This would be the oldest. Would this one be older or younger than this one? This is older than that one. Any questions about the law of superposition thus far? Okay, then let's move on and build on. Now, remember, as we look through the rock layers, not only are we looking at the layers of the earth so that we can be able to help date and determine the earth, we are also looking at past life so we can understand what happened in the past, how our earth used to look, and understand what used to be there at a certain time. And in that, we find fossils. So let the star be the youngest, and so on and so forth. Who wants to put the fossils in the correct rock layer? Answer. is the star in the yellow layer?
The star isn't in the yellow layer.
Why is the star in the pink layer?
It's the youngest.
Because the pink layer is the youngest layer and the star fossil is the youngest fossil. Why is the red blue fossil in the purple layer? It's the oldest fossil, which means it has to be in the oldest layer. Any questions? Okay. So we understand that. Very good. Alrighty. Geologic column is an arrangement of rock layers in which what rocks are at the bottom? The oldest are at the bottom. Remember, geologic column is an arrangement of rocks. Is the column up and down or across? The column goes straight up and down. All right. Scientists use geologic columns to help us date the Earth. So let's break down this information. Geologic columns help scientists find what type of age of the Earth, which is called the relative age. Because they're just looking to see if it's older or younger. Which rock layer is the oldest? Which rock layer is the youngest? How is the Earth's geologic column formed? Well, we have these stratigraphic sections and they're pieced together to form columns. So they find different pieces of the Earth as they look and they form a column with it. They stack it according to what they see, oldest to youngest. From those columns, it kind of looks like this. Stratigraphic is a rock layer. So again, rock layer sections are pieced together to form columns. So if a scientist dug up the Earth and they didn't know that any other parts of the Earth exist, they just thought that was their only world, then they would be able to say that this is the Earth's layer. This is the Earth's geologic column, which means that this layer would be considered the youngest, and this layer would be considered the oldest. However, this is not the only layer of the Earth because there's other parts of the Earth. So what happens is these short columns are pieced together to form a longer column. So they email or they call or they look up other parts of the world and what other scientists have found and they add their piece into there. But it has to match perfectly, meaning that you can't just stack up the layers. You have to see, did that part of the Earth contain this rock layer here? And if it did, where does that match up? Am I missing anything up here? Am I missing anything down here? Is this truly the oldest layer? Is this truly the youngest layer? Is there anything missing in between there? And they look at those things, but they piece them together. They form longer columns. Once they piece all the columns together, and it's still a continual working process, all the columns are pieced together and they form the entire Earth's what?
Crust.
No, not the crust. The geologic column. They can't do it alone. They need other paleontologists and archaeologists to do so. Any questions about this? Okay. So now you are going to be a paleontologist by short. We're going to create a geologic column by matching the rocks using the pieces below. We're going to put them together like a puzzle. You cannot flip the earth layer around. You can put them together side by side. You can move this over here and this over here, up and down, whatever. However you see that the pieces fit. And they have to fit going across. So, for instance, this one would fit with that one, but this one does not fit with this one, so that can't go there. Who would like to volunteer in putting the pieces together? Kiara. Don't stack them yet. When you put them together, just kind of leave them side by side. Very good. Let's give Kiara a round of applause. Does everyone see that? So let me explain to you what happens. This scientist here dug up the earth and they found this layer and they're like, okay, I have the rock layers going on here. According to what I found, this rock layer is what? The youngest. And this rock layer is the oldest. But that scientist knows that that is not all of the layers of the earth. So the scientist has to call another part of the earth and say, or look up and see, okay, is this truly what it is, or are there some things that are missing? So find this layer, and they say, okay, well, look at that. This matches all the way across here and all the way across there. Together correctly. And there's a perfect match. So therefore, this layer was not the oldest, right? This layer is now the oldest. This is the youngest still according to what they found. But this scientist also knows that that's not it. So they find another layer of the earth in another part of the world, and they bring it over and they say, okay, where does this go? Well, look at that. That matches, that matches, that matches, and that matches. This was not the oldest. This is actually the oldest. And if we stack them now from oldest to youngest, well, let me say this. This part of the world here is missing some layers. So that means that tells the paleontologist and the archaeologist that this part of the world did not exist during these eras. In addition, this part of the world did not exist during these eras. But something happened where it never got these rock layers here. In addition, this part of the world is older than these two parts of the world because they have older rock layers. But something happened where it never got those rock layers there. Do you see what's happening here? Okay, so they take their layers of the earth that they have from different areas and they stack them to come up with an earth column where now you truly see the youngest and the oldest. Any questions? Okay, because at some point you're going to have to do that. Now, rock layers can be disturbed because so far we've seen that they've been pretty uniform, right? They've been pretty, okay, you have the oldest, then you have the next oldest, then you have going all the way up into the younger. But there could be some disturbances in rock layers. One type of disturbance is called a feature. And remember, you looked at the features in a picture to try to determine which one was older and which one was younger. Features in rocks, one would be called a fault. And a fault is represented by a dash in between the rock layers. Notice you see that big blue dash. And in your space on your notes, you are going to draw this so that you know what it kind of looks like. Now, a fault is a break, and then your rock layers kind of slide or shift amongst one another. To remember what a fault is, think about if your friend comes over to your house and they break your mom's vase, you're going to say, ooh, you broke it, it's your fault. Mea culpa. My fault, my bad. So a fault is a feature. That is a disturbance in rock layers. So therefore, the law of superposition still applies. However, there's some disturbances where the youngest is not all the way at the bottom anymore because it had a break. Another feature is considered an intrusion. And an intrusion is where hot molten rock squeezes its way through rock layers and then hardens. And if you are and your group of friends are in a little huddle and you're talking and someone comes to break through, you're going to call them a intruder. They're rude, but they are considered an intruder. Now, would you say features, being an intrusion or a fault, is older or younger than the rock layers?
Younger.
It's younger. Why? It had to come in later because if it didn't, then there were no rock layers there. In order to break rock or push through rock, there has to be rock. Any questions? Okay. Another thing that disturbs rock layers are events. One event would be folding. A folding occurs when the rock layers have been pushed together and they buckle because of internal forces. And these pictures next to the cartoon pictures are real live pictures, not live, but real pictures of areas that represent these type of features and events. While you're drawing this, what are the two features? Intrusion and fault. They kind of add to what it looks like. This just changes it. Another type of event would be tilting. And tilting is when your internal forces slant the rock.
Is the fault the same as like fault?
Yes. What are your two events? Tilting and folding. Are your events younger or older than the rock layers it disturbs? Younger, because again, the rock layers have to be there in order for them to be a disturbance. Everyone understand that? Okay. Can I move? So features and events are younger. Than rock layers affected. Again, why are they younger? They came in later and the rock layers have to be there in order to be affected. Any questions for this? So not only can your rock layers have your layers be disturbed because of features and events, you also have gaps in the record. So everything's not always perfect. There's some things that are gaps, some missing information. These are called unconformities. What's a conformity? What does it mean to conform? To be in line, to go along with. So if you conform to religion, that means you go along with the religion. You follow through everything that's being asked of you. So what's unconformity? You don't do something. Something didn't go right. So an unconformity is a missing rock layer, and it creates a break in sequence. So as they're checking the rock layer, they say, okay, well, this layer matches, this layer matches, this layer doesn't, but the layer above it does. What the heck is going on? Something must have happened. There's some absence. Something stopped over time. There was no rock laid there. Unconformities are created two ways. One way where no rock was put down there, it's called non-deposition. What time period is an explanation of this? Where no rock layer was put there. Nothing was happening during that time. Everything stopped. Ice Age. Another unconformity, or another way unconformities are created, is where the area is uplifted because of wind and water, erosion. So at some point, that part of the earth did have that layer, but it was eroded. It got blown away, taken away. Or at some part, that part of the earth did not get that layer, and then things started to produce again, and then they did get rock layers, and that's non-deposition, which is explanation of the Ice Age. Any questions of this? Okay, are you still writing? Yeah. Okay. Got it? All right. You have this picture here. For this picture, I actually labeled what was oldest and what was youngest. I put letters there. B representing the oldest, and I think the word oldest got cut off on your paper, so please make sure you label B the oldest, and H being the youngest. You are going to place letters inside the picture determining what layer of rock is the oldest all the way up to what is the youngest. First, let's label off some things. What is this part called that I am outlining? An intrusion. Is that a feature or event? A feature. What is this thing that I'm labeling? It's not a slant. It's called a fault. It's a break in the earth. All right. So take this time now to go ahead and label your parts of the earth. This is not a rock layer. Notice up here at the very top, this is land. This is land here. That's your trees, and there's a house there. So all of this is land. We're talking about these things. Those are the things that you're layering, you're labeling. While you're working, I'm going to color it in. So. Yep. Got to use all the letters.
There's 9 letters, there's 8 spots.
Nope, there's enough stuff. Yeah, there's enough stuff. You got to label everything. Don't forget about labeling your faults.
The letters go in the layers, right?
The letters go label everything. That's why you have arrows to be able to point to certain things. Where's mine? Here we go. No, no, no. We're not making these crazy noises. You're working on this, and I know everyone's not done. I'm just doing this to be able to identify which one you're talking about. Mm-hmm. Uh-oh, that's not right.
I just said for reasons of knowing them.
Alrighty. According to this picture, where the oldest is B. Raise your hand and tell me what is the oldest rock layer, the oldest thing in this picture, Darius.
The red extrusion moving lines.
You're saying this is the oldest?
Yeah.
What is that?
That's
An intrusion. Can an intrusion be older than the rock layers?
I thought the part that was slanting up was it.
No, this all is the intrusion. Notice it's coming from the bottom and it's going through. Can an intrusion be older than the rock layers? No. The rock layers have to be there in order for an intrusion to occur. The purple. All right. What came next? Really? Because the intrusion is affecting the purple, the green, and the pink.
the green.
I just want to know what's C. The green. What's D? The pink? All right, what is M? The red? You think so? It's the fault. I'm going to explain how. 1 second. Then what came after M? Then the intrusion. Remember, the intrusion is molten rock, molten lava that hardens into rock. The fault is not just a line, it represents a break. If the intrusion came in and then the fault, then the intrusion would also be broke. That would be affected. Is the intrusion affected? No, it's not. Therefore, the intrusion did not come before the fault. Do you understand that? Okay, so then we had A being the intrusion. What's E? It's a purplish. Okay. What's F? What's G? And what's H? Very good. Any questions?
Yeah, well, we have to do that on the test.
You will have to label them, yes. There it is there. There it is there. Now, so here's a nice little song. Help you understand what we've learned in our notes thus far. Hey, why are you doing that talking back there? Pay attention to the pictures. What's this big red thing? An intrusion. What's this line here? False. This video is also on the website.
Don't play it, angel. This is how we do it in our class, using the music to help the students that wanna pass. Studying the earth, figuring its birth. Remember the layers, always young above, old, always young above,
Oh, what's
old.
always above, young above old? What is that?
Teachers
Law of
leaving,
position.
always younger. The
They're
layers
always younger than the layers that they affect.
Voting, both are even. Intrusions and faults are called features. When I'm alone in my room, studying the Earth date of Earth layers young and old tells us what? It's relative age. That's
Young and old, relative
or
age.
as close as you get. Sedimentary rock that layers a lot. Superposition. It's young over old. Geologic Column. Earth's story is told. Fossils age. Told in layers they lay. Older young. What? You feel me? Don't play it, angel. This is how we do it in our class, using the music to help the students that wanna pass. Studying the earth, figuring its birth. Remember the layers,
Always young above old. Always young above old. What? Features and events. Always younger. The layers affected, tilting and folding, both. Stay with the beat, Clayton. Intrusions and faults
are called features.
That stops the lesson for right here. We'll talk about absolute dating on tomorrow.